Aloha guys, John here with Maui Mornings. I'm in Maui, I'm on Maui, and it's a beautiful morning. And I'll be able to show you some of those things as we go along. Some of the sights and sounds of Maui right now. For time's sake, I had to just really jump on and share with you something that is near and dear to my heart is this inner world of allowing and ascension and growth and maturing and expansion, whatever you want to call it. I think that if we become self-aware, then we see it more and more for this really the cry of our souls to learn to love. And we are love, but learning to go right through the egoic side of things and allow it to heal and permeate every area of our lives, so that when we walk through life, we're walking through in this non-judgment capacity. And today I just wanted to share about disappointment, because I just recently went through something and felt like, wait, there's no better way than to kind of, quote, break this cycle and this pattern of feeling disappointment and then not wanting to go ahead with a video or not doing something that I really enjoy and something that would help someone else, is just to be let down and sit down and grovel in the disappointment. So where do disappointments or letdowns or bummers come from? That's the real question. Oftentimes we just go through life and we don't ask these important questions, like where does that come from? Who is the one in me that's being dissed or disappointed or let down? Let down. It's a downer, right? Who is that? Well, it certainly couldn't be the greater part of ourselves, our spirit, because it's obviously emanating 100% all of the good stuff all of the time, meaning it's love. I believe that we're made of love. I believe that we're the very substance of love, the greater part of who we are in our consciousness is love. I believe in the Christ consciousness, the presence, the very presence. Christ means presence in the now. The now consciousness, living in the now, in the greater creator part of things, the Godhead within, internally. I mean, we're bigger than the cosmos, because we're a part of, we're a spark of, we are a piece of, whatever you want to call it, a part of God that's non-religious and that sits there and goes, okay, hey, everything's fine, everything's great, everything's wonderful. It's the other side, the part of that's been conditioned in our lives, that's been let down, or it's a bummer, or disappointed, or angry, or confused. The egoic side that's been wounded and traumatized. And a lot of times as men, especially, we'll go through life and we'll just force it out, we'll push it out, we will grind it out, and not even take a second thought about, hey, this is the way I am. Who cares? Get over it, woman. Get over it, man. Get over it, bruh. You know, that kind of thing. How's that working out for you? We say, well, bro, hey, bro, it's working out for me just great. Well, no, it's not. Because just ask those around you that love and care for you, and just ask them honestly to give their honest feedback without fear of repercussion. And guess what'll come out? We all have blind spots, guys. We all have issues and situations that our ego loves to take us down in these deficient rabbit trails that have a block at the end. They're not free flowing, they're not free running, just like our spirit would be, with no caps, no limits. It's endless in the capabilities and possibilities that we carry within us. It's the limitation of the egoic side of things that brings us these disappointments, these letdowns, these bummers. And so I was just dealing with something recently, and I had the opportunity to enter into this poor me syndrome. And I was just expecting something, I think, a little too much, and it didn't happen. I was trying to let it go. How many of you are expecting something, or some situation with a person to act a certain way, or call you, or you're waiting for an opportunity, it doesn't happen, or a contest, or whatever it may be, and then it just doesn't work out the way that you had hoped it would. And so you followed all the formulas, and you're like, okay, if I just let go of the outcome and just remain happy and joyful, it's going to happen for me. Well, there's factors around that. Okay, we can move in the arena of facts and believe that we have 100% truth, or revealing something to our soul that we know is, okay, this is settled. And then there's like one guy said that we just love to listen to, Robert Robert Edward, says it's facets. Facets. Just add an E in between the facts in the word fact. Put an E in there, facets. And I tend to look at the E as energy. So there's endless energy, but do we have all of the energy surrounding the facts? Meaning that have we been illuminated to everything that needs to show up or that we want to show up in our lives? No, we don't. We don't. It's endless. It's limitless. And so to carry ourselves in a way that is more in the heart-centered space or the spiritual space of our lives would be to live life with no expectations and no preferences. And you say, how can we do that? I mean, wouldn't God want me to have something that I enjoy or that I love, or, why wouldn't he give that to me? Well, of course, if you have a heart's desire, remember, it's a heart's desire, not an egoic desire, gives us the desires of our hearts, not our heads, not our egoic side of things. And oftentimes what we do is we make this request, we put it out there, and we say, God, universe, whatever you want to say, I believe in God. And you say, I want this, or I want to be with this person, or I want this house, or I want these physical things, or I just want a great opportunity in work or a business, right? And we begin to put those pleas out there. Oftentimes what gets entangled in the bigger part of who we are is that egoic side that's been conditioned and programmed to believe that it has to come in a certain way, a certain package, at a certain time, or we're going to be let down and disappointed, and then we thumb our nose at God. We just look at everything just not working for us, and then we start saying things, it never works out, I never win, I never get the girl, I never get the dream job, it never works out for me. Those kind of things. Who is saying that? Where are those statements coming from? That's the bigger question. Because I guarantee they're not coming from the spirit of who we are, the real us, the genuine us, without the conditioning. They're coming from the conditioned program side of things, depending on how you were raised, depending on what's happened in the trauma in your life. You will have a certain outcome in the way that you believe and the statements that you make that back up those beliefs. And so you're going to sit there and say either, hey, you know what? Everything works out the way it should. Everything works out for me. Everything's working for me for my good. It doesn't matter how it turns out. It doesn't matter how it comes or when it comes. I'm just going to enjoy it in the now. I'm just going to enjoy life. Now, that's easier said than done for some of us because we've been so deeply programmed and conditioned to believe something otherwise. I mean, especially in the Western nations. In America, we're like, oh man, I'm living on Maui and, I've got to have certain things. I've got to get to the beach on a certain time. I've got to get, I got to go out and paddle, or I need to go do this certain type of event, or got to surf, whatever it may be. And we say, I have to. Again, where's that drive coming from? It's a much easier way to live away from disappointment, because disappointment is embedded in egoic mindsets. A better way to live in the appointment of the spirit would be to allow anything and everything that's synchronizing towards my life for the good, to allow it to synchronize. See, the ego does not want to allow epiphanies, suddenlies, divine appointments, allowance, all of these wonderful synchronistic things. It refuses, because it wants an outcome, and it wants it when it wants it. And so when a disappointment arises, when we had a certain expectation, it doesn't turn out the way we thought it should or would or could, then our programming says, see, look at that. You don't ever win any contest. You don't ever win the lottery. You don't ever, why even try? Why even try with the girl? Why even try with the guy? Why even try in the relationship? Because they all turn out the same way. And so that voice that comes up and out of our lives, in our thinking, and then comes through our mouth, that I can guarantee you that is conditioning. It has nothing to do with the real you. See, and why we're in Earth School, why are we here? We're here to learn and to overcome and to ascend those parts of us, those areas that want to anchor into an outcome that we believe would benefit us. See, because we all want to feel good, we all want to be happy, right? And so if we don't have certain, if our dinner plans get messed up, or we don't get the job, or the business deal doesn't turn out, or, we're driving down the road and we're not paying attention and we smack a car mirror because we're driving too close to the parked cars or whatever it may be. And we're like, man, see, something's out to get me. A dark entity is out to get me, or, God doesn't like me. All of those things. Then it brings us back to this area that's deficient. And then if we're not careful, we'll loop and we'll pattern in that for years, sometimes decades, sometimes an entire lifetime. And people die that way. And then they're on their deathbed just before they die. And they're like, I wish I would have lived life. I wish I would have just lived in the now. I have so many regrets. See, when we live presently and in the now, as much as we've been in and out of this state of in the now or not in the now, when we live from that place, we have absolutely no problems. You ever notice that when you live in the now, when you live in the current now, that you have no problems? There's no issues, even if you're locked up in prison. I mean, some of the most free people are in prison. But for the average person that's not locked up, that's not being traumatized, not chased by a lion, that's not getting physically beat up right now, is there anything wrong in this current moment? No, there's not. You say, well, I'm struggling with bills. I'm struggling with bankruptcy. I lost everything. My dog ran away. My wife ran away. Everybody ran away from me. And I'm miserable. What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is if you allow yourself to live in the moment, breathe in the moment for right now, there is nothing wrong. It's the egoic side of things that says, look at this. How am I going to get out of this? How am I going to pay these debtors? How am I going to pay my debts? How am I going to take care of this situation or that situation? See, who's saying that? Who is saying that? Who is that part of you? Well, it's the egoic side of you. EGO, edging God out. You're edging the greater part of you out to say there's no possibility. When actually in the now, all things are possible. In this current moment, a suddenly could happen that could wipe out your debt. And we're not living in that expectation all the time for it to come in a certain way. That again would be the egoic programming. What we're doing is we're saying, okay, I'm just going to enjoy the moment because this is all I have. If you really think about it, it's all we have in our breath is just right now, right here, right now. I have nothing else. And like the ancient text says, in scripture it says, hey, your life is like a vapor, here today, gone tomorrow. What are you doing calculating where you'll be next year? If you move to this city or that city, or start a business over there, paraphrasing, of course. What are you doing out in your mind a year from now? It's like this. And that's the egoic side of things. But it's like this. Amy and I just wrapped up working for the Red Cross, doing a disaster operations contract. It's temporary work, and we just felt drawn to join the Red Cross and do this to help the people of Maui and the Maui wildfires. And one of the things that is pretty amazing about this kind of work and what's happened is, when people we're working in the housing part where, we're helping people get housed along with FEMA. What's interesting is that the thought processes of someone that's been traumatized, and I'm not making light of this at all. I'm not, downplaying the trauma, because it has been just really, really challenging for a lot of people. But the mindset, the mentality that says, when we were placing them and FEMA was giving them 18 months in a free place, basically just follow the procedure and we will place you in a nice apartment, condo, or a house and we'll give it to you in the beginning when the fires began from the fires about August. It would be 18 months total, and as time went on, it lessened, but 18 months originally, and then they would put them up, and then at the end of the 18 months we'll come in and FEMA speaking, will decide what we're going to do from there. Well, some people, in fact quite a few, were questioning, going, why should I move into a place that I might not be able to afford in 18 months? So I can't do it. So then they left the whole program, the FEMA sheltering with Red Cross. They left the FEMA program. They're like, I'm out. I'll just go live on the beach. Now, my question would be, who's saying that? Who is the one internally saying that in full of fear, saying, I can't do this. It's 18 months from now. I am so worried about the future that I'm actually living there in my mind and I can't see it working out for me. Well, I can tell you who's saying that. It's the conditioned, egoic side of us, the survival programming that says I'm already in trauma and I'm living in my head in the future in that trauma, and I see it not working out. Instead of looking at it and saying, you know what, I just need room to breathe, I need a rest, and 18 months sounds great. Put me in that house. And it gives an opportunity to save money for 18 months. And then when the 18 months is over, we see what unfolds then. But see, a lot of people can't go there because they're so embedded, ingrained in the trauma and looping in that traumatized state to say, I don't see things working out. And most of society, as you and I know, are living in survival mode. Fight, flight, and freeze in their mind, in their head, constantly, because this is how the world has been programmed around us since the fall. So people have been living in the fall for forever. When, in fact, that is an illusionary lie in the egoic side of things, saying that you have to live in disappointment all the time. Why have expectations at all? Because I'm expecting bad things to happen in my life. That's the mindset. Now, it's okay to have expectations to a degree if you know something is already set in motion from an hour from now and you're moving forward and you're like, I'm going to go eat in an hour. Okay? Well, don't hold on to that too tightly, because what if something shifts and the restaurant closes suddenly for some reason, or it shuts down, or you can't get in because it's too full, and then now you're setting yourself up for disappointment again. So what I mean by expectation is just hold on to them loosely. Be fluid with them. Be flexible with expectations. And I know there's a lot of teaching out there that says, expect it and it'll come, anchor into it and it'll come. Well, what if it doesn't come? Like, that's not lack of faith. It's just, hey, what if there's a shift and a change for something better, a better outcome that could come to us, whereas before we may have been planning purely out of ego and wanting a desired outcome because ego is looking for that end result of safety. Can I just tell you that the only place where there's no disappointments and flooded with safety is in the moment, in the now, living presently in the now. It's the only safe place, because it's the only place we've designed to live, is in this current moment of reality. And we're not talking about time, linear time, so much as we're talking about eternal time. We live in the eternal realm right here, right now. We're having an experience in an earth suit, learning how to love in this earth suit. We are already love, but we're remembering how to love unconditionally by healing the ego, healing the egoic side of our lives. And when we heal that and integrate it, oh man, watch what happens with enlightenment. Watch what happens with the miraculous exploding around our lives, because we live in non-judgment, in non-expectation, non-outcome. We're living in a present moment that is flooded with amazing possibility, limitless possibility, and synchronicity that could happen at any second, at any time. Think about this. You put in, you're trying to win some kind of contest, okay? They announce another winner. And you're like, oh man, I was really believing for that. It didn't work. Man, how can I see a way forward now? Because I perfectly planned this out in my mind. I was envisioning it and dreaming it. And that was the outcome. Well, maybe that was a limited outcome. And maybe God wanted to give you something far reaching and far greater than that particular item or that thing. You're saying, I can't see it. I can't see it because I'm not playing a contest. Who cares? Don't you think that actually something could come to you without playing a contest or playing the lottery or waiting for some inheritance? Of course it can, if we're living in the moment, in the now. And I know it's a cultivation. It's a learned discipline practice, if you will, but it's not from the ego. It's just deciding, saying, okay, I'm going to decide to live in the now as much as possible throughout the day and let go of things. And it's about allowing and letting go for most of our day. And then before we know it, we're just reconditioned, if you will, to live from this moment of the now. And then we look at stuff that's programmed and conditioned coming up at us, and we just smile and send love to it. And then we find ourselves yearning and longing and hungry for the present moment. Our desire is in the now, rather than looking to some outcome of the future that may not even happen. And so looking at the people that are saying, 18 months from now, how in the world is this ever going to work out? Because, the rent's $7,000 a month that FEMA's paying. And how am I supposed to pay $7,000 a month for a 1-bedroom? That's literally what they're going for right now, and more. How am I supposed to pay $7,000? How am I supposed to do that in 18 months from now? Well, here's another question. How are you supposed to live on the beach for 18 months? I mean, I suppose you could try. I tell you what, that's a long time being in a tent on the beach in the middle of blazing heat in the summertime, and the unexpected fear of not knowing who's around you, what's going to happen at night. How do I go to the bathroom? How am I supposed to even stay cooled off? Well, I can go swim in the ocean, but then where am I going to shower? Oh, there's an outdoor shower. Okay, so you can come up with solutions, right? But I guarantee you at some point you're going to want a real bathroom. You're going to want a real toilet. You're going to want a real shower. And you're going to want to have a sense of safety because you can lock a door. Okay? Hey, that's just life, right? And again, I say the safest place is living in the now. You could say, well, I'll just live in the now in the tent. However, is that your only option? So you had another option to live in a place that's more comfortable because you were in the now. FEMA offered you something in the now, and you didn't take the now because your ego was so fearful that it wouldn't work out in the future, so you weren't actually living in the now. See how that works? You were living in fear, and fear drove you to the beach in a tent. And hey, I know some people can make it okay in a tent for a while. I lived in a tent as a kid during a transition that my parents had. We lived in the middle of winter in a tent. We made it. I'm alive. However, there's other options that are more peaceful, restful, safe, effortless. I tell you, when we live in disappointment, it's efforted. That's a lot of hard work in that, because you're always living in this place of fear and uncertainty and anxiety that actually causes everything to become hard. Ego equals hard. Spirit, heart-centeredness equals effortless, easy. So, I'll leave you with this. If you're feeling the if you're feeling a disappointment, if you're feeling an uneasiness, if you're feeling like let down or depressed, just remember where that's coming from. That's purely coming from the conditioned ego side of things. So if you know that you have a greater part of you called heart-centeredness or your spirit, if you know that you have a greater part, why not explore that? Why not explore it? By surrender, through surrender and letting go and becoming self-aware by and through letting go causes you to become more self-aware. And then you just watch these thoughts come up that try to get you into disappointment, try to drag you into the chains of all of this letdown, depression, and watch it come up, and then send love to it as best as you can and say, hey, I'm letting you go. I'm not going to anchor into you as you go by the thoughts and watch them go by in my head. I'm not going to anchor into them anymore. I'm just going to surrender them. Just say, I love you out loud, even if you don't. That'll cause you to start loving. Just say, I love you. I send love to you. And then it starts integrating into your life. And then the ego takes its rightful place. It becomes healed. And then your spirit takes the forefront. It takes the wheel of your life. And then you begin to live in the now, where anything is possible and disappointments are not found. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Hope that helped someone today on your journey. And watch for us next time on the next video. All right. Aloha.